Hello everyone, this is Dr. Reza Rahaimer. In the second unit, we will dive more in HTML concepts. At the end of this lecture, you should be able to describe the concept of semantic meaning as applied to HTML, identify and use many of the most common elements used in HTML, explain how the HTML handles whitespace, be able to link to other HTML pages using anchor elements, describe the difference between block and phrase elements, which is very important and you should be on top of these concepts, identify the HTML elements commonly used to structure a document, explain proper nesting of HTML elements, describe the nature and purpose of HTML elements attributes, and finally identify a variety of HTML special characters and symbols. Let's start with the concept of semantic meaning. HTML tags describe a document structure. There are many ways to create the same looking web page, but we need to use the right tags which are designed and considered for that special purpose. This is what is called semantic meaning. We need to respect to the semantic meaning of HTML tags. In another word, we need to use the right tags for each purpose. Later you will see that we can change the style of each tag using CSS. It's time to see more HTML tags. In the Unit 1, we got familiar with the H1 to H6 tags. If you remember, we said that we use these tags for representing headings. H1 is the most important heading in your web page, and H6 is the least important heading in your web page. As you see, H1 by default is bigger than H2, and H2 is bigger than H3, and H3 is bigger than H4. But we don't use these tags to just show a text with a bigger font. We use these tags if we need to show a heading. The next tag is the P tag. We use P tags to represent a paragraph. We talked about this tag in the previous unit. By default, P tags add some space before and after the paragraph, but we don't use P tags to add space before or after a text. Again, the semantic meaning of P tag is to create a paragraph. P elements should only use for creating paragraphs. If you need spacing, it can be added to other elements later, and we will learn it when we talk about CSS. Here, it's good to talk about white spaces. White spaces are characters that you cannot see them on the screen, but you feel the effect of them, like a space character, like a new line character, like a tab character. You cannot see these characters on the screen, but they have some effects. In HTML, extra spaces and new lines. Generally, browsers ignore more than one consecutive white spaces when they want to render the page and show the page to users. This feature is really useful. It allows a developer to organize their code as they want. For example, because of this feature, you can indent your code without inserting extra spaces in our web page. Or you can add extra lines between different sections without being worried about the change in the presentation. To add line breaks or space, we have some special HTML tags. There is one exception to this rule. If you want to browsers respect to white spaces as they are in the HTML file, you need to put them inside a pre tag. Let's test what we have said so far. I am going to create a new website for this unit. So again, I open my Visual Studio Code and go to its file menu and choose open folder. Now it's time to select the folder that I want to store my file in it. I want to store my file in this directory, in this folder, and here I want to actually add a new subfolder to this folder, S2, and store my file in the S2 folder. Okay, I close this tab, and here in the Explorer pane, I go to my file and to my folder name and click New File icon. Now it's time to select the name for my file. I type 1.html. We said that the extension of HTML files must be HTML. So you always type a name, then a dot, and then HTML when you want to name a file. The first line should be started with this statement. We use this statement to tell browsers that this page contains HTML5 tags. And in the second line, we need to add an HTML element. And to help assistant tools, we specify the language of our page by adding the lang attribute to the HTML element. No, EN stands for English. We said that each HTML element must have two elements, a head element and a body element. In the head, we should have a meta element. Meta element with the attribute charset, and we said that we set the charset to UTF-8 standard, which allows us to show different characters from different languages and some symbols. Also, we said that we usually add a title element to the heading section. The title element allows us to specify a title for our web page. My page title. And in the body, we can type whatever we want. Okay, let's preview the page. And from the Explorer, I right-click on the file that I want to see its preview. And from the menu, we choose Show Preview. Again, if you can't see this option, that means you haven't installed Live Preview extension. To install the Live Preview extension, you need to go to this tab, type Live Preview here, and install the extension. I have already installed the extension, so I have different option here, but you haven't installed it. But if you haven't installed it, you will see install option here, install button here. I go back to the Explorer pane and close this extra stuff. I copy these two paragraphs from our website and paste it in the body element. As we see, browsers automatically adjust the text and they don't care white spaces. If I add several new line, or if I add some white space here, 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 all of them will be ignored. Okay, now I want to show two paragraphs. So I need to use an appropriate element. I put the first text inside the paragraph, so here we see that the text is shown as a separate paragraph. Now it's time to wrap the next text inside another P element. Now we have two paragraphs. If we rescale the window, you see that the browser automatically adjusts the text length, But if I use pre tag instead of p tag, you see that all white spaces are considered when the browser wants to show the HTML file. Now, if you add an enter, it will affect the final result. All extra white spaces will be ignored if the text is used inside any other tags. Pre tag is the exception. Look, as a programmer, I don't need to be worried about how the text will be shown in the browser by this nice white space feature. The only thing that the browser cares is how to show two paragraphs. We use BR tag to add extra line to our code. Sometimes we don't want to create a new paragraph, but we want to make sure that the rest of the text will be shown from a new line. For example, if you want to show the rest of this text in a new line, we just add a BR tag. You see, the rest of this text is forced to be shown from a new line. BR element is an element who doesn't have any content. So it only contains a start tag. It doesn't have a content section and it doesn't have an end tag. The next tag that we are going to learn is the block quote tag. We use this tag to denote a quoted passage of text. By default, a quoted text inside the block quote tag will be indented. Again, we don't use this tag just to indent a text. According to the semantic meaning of this element, we use this tag to represent a quoted passage of text, nothing else. If you want to emphasize on a phrase in the text, you can wrap the phrase in a B or in an I tag. We use B tags to bold a text, and we use I tags to italicize the text. In this example, you see that the phrase really is italicized in the presentation, and the phrase eat your broccoli is bold in the presentation. B and I tags have twin elements. The strong tag works exactly as the same as the B tag. And the EM tag works as the same as the I tag. HR tags is used to create a horizontal line. Sometimes it's good to add a horizontal line between two sections. Here you see that we have a heading and a paragraph. And it looks good to add a horizontal line like this. Horizontal line is a self-closing tag. That means that it cannot have any content and consequently it doesn't need to any closing tag. By default, we can divide HTML tags into two main categories: block elements and inline elements. Block elements start and end with new line on a page, and you cannot put any other elements on their left or right side in their container. So far we have seen elements like paragraph, headings, block codes, which are block elements. Each subsequent block is stacked under the prior one. In contrast, inline elements are the elements that occupies the space needed to show them and allows other elements to be on their left or right side. We usually use inline elements to mark up words or phrases within a block element, but they don't necessarily start and end with new lines. Here, this page is created with two p tags. The first p tag creates the first paragraph and the second p tag creates the second paragraph. As you see, in the first paragraph, even though this space is free, the next p tag starts from a new line and the space left empty. Within the first paragraph, this text is actually italicized and bold. And as you see, this element only occupied the space that is needed to show its content. And we have some stuff on there on its left and on its right. This is a phrase element. Later, you will see that we can change this default attribute of elements. And even we can make something in between, something which is called inline block element. The next concept is proper nesting. As you have seen in an HTML page, we nested elements a lot. Nesting elements allows us to create more complex views and add additional semantic meaning and styling to our content. Here in this example, the phrase paragraph that is defined inside the I element. The I element itself is defined inside the B element, and the B element itself is defined inside the P element. Proper nesting means that when you define an element inside another element, you must close it inside that element. For example, here I defined the I element inside the B element. So I have to close it. I have to end it inside the B element. And the B element is defined inside the P element. So it must be closed inside the P element. This is one of the questions that you will see in the midterm exam. I will give a code and I will ask you to find the bug in this code. And one of the bugs can be a part of the code that is not properly nested. With this code, actually, we will create a paragraph, which part of the paragraph is italicized and bold. Now it's time to practice. Assume you have the following content and you want to display this content like this one. It's time to stop the video and open your Visual Studio Code and get hand on. The answer to this question will be shown in the rest of this video. And this is the answer. This is the end of the first section of this unit. Have a nice day.